I want to tell you guys a little bit about the YOCISCO origin story. Let me set the stage. It's 1998, downtown Denver, Colorado. I'm barely 21 years old, nervous as hell, standing backstage at this tiny little hole-in-the-wall bar in downtown Denver, about to strip for the very first time. I had never stripped before. I had never done anything like that, taken off my clothes in front of a bunch of people. And I thought at the time, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna see what stripping is like. At the time, my body was starting to come along. I had been in the gym and, I was starting to feel good about the way I looked. I had some little bit of confidence, right? And I wanted to try stripping. I wanted to see what it was like. So I stepped up on that stage. I remember being so nervous. This drag queen came and she gave me 2 shots of tequila. The lights came on the stage. The music dropped and it was like this insane rush. Most of the performance was a blur, but after that, I was hooked. And I think that really was the moment or the spark that eventually became YOCISCO. The stripping and all of that ended up turning into like modeling. I was just young and naive. I was literally like 21 years old. I ended up taking a trip to Los Angeles. I ended up getting connected with some people that were doing some photo shoots in LA that ended up blowing up online. All of a sudden, I had fans. I went crazy, like, wow, this dude is so hot. Where did he come from? That's kind of how I got connected with Club Papi. Club Papi is a circuit party. It's like a pop-up circuit party. Would pop up in different cities. During this time as a go-go dancer, we became really popular. We almost were like kind of like celebrities in certain circles. This was during the MySpace years. And so I was flying around the country every weekend or every other weekend when I didn't have my daughter. I was getting to meet people. I was getting out of Colorado. I was performing live. The best part of the whole thing was being able to just be in the community. The thing about Club Papi is Club Papi catered to the Latino community, especially the gay Latino community. As a Chicano, as a Mexican American, I felt so at home with like the community and with the people that would come out to see us. And I think that was the best part. I always felt grateful that people would come out and pay money and put money in our underwear. For me, meeting like fans and stuff, it was humbling. I really did appreciate it. It was an awesome time. And then 2008 hit, the recession. I was a mortgage broker at the time. And if you remember, the recession started off in the mortgage industry, in the real estate industry. And so I was one of the first people to be hit hard by the Great Recession. I lost my job as a mortgage broker because that was my main gig. My go-go dancing was just a side gig. That was like, just to make extra money and have fun. But at the time, I lost my whole career. I owned a home. I lost my home. I lost all my furniture. I had to sell everything I had. And I had to take my little girl, my daughter. She was just a little girl. I think she was maybe about, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7. And I had to move home with my parents. It's humiliating. It's demeaning when you lose everything. So the only income that I had at the time was go-go dancing. So I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to lean into the dancing hard. And that's where I started doing more gigs. I started getting booked on like gay cruises. I was doing more like magazine shoots. Stuff was really picking up. During that time though, I started to think about like, how can I make this into something bigger? Like, I love the dancing. It's cool. I'm having fun. But let's face it, you can't have a really long career in go-go dancing. Out of all of that turmoil, that's where YOCISCO was born. When I launched YOCISCO in 2007, it was originally an online magazine for gay men of color. And back in 2007, keep in mind, there was not a whole heck of a lot of representation. So I really, with the magazine, the online magazine, I wanted to create a space where all of our stories could exist. Thinking about the name, I was like, what can I call this magazine? What can I call this online magazine? I thought about it for weeks, just like racking my brain. The name kind of came to me because I remember like being on the go-go box in the club, right? People would be like, hey, yo, Cisco. Oh, that's Cisco. Yo, Cisco. That's literally where the name came from. So YOCISCO was what people sometimes would yell at me to get my attention when I was up on the go-go box. That energy and that confidence, that really became the YOCISCO brand. The online magazine didn't last very long. It fizzled out after a few years. But I would say that seed was planted for the brand. By 2011, I was starting to recover from the downturn, and that's when I started working for an art college. Because I was working there, I was able to take design classes for free, fashion design classes. I had always been interested in fashion, but I was always creative, and I always loved to draw, and I always loved, art and things like that. In those classes, in those fashion design classes, I started to learn about fabric and color and texture, and just realizing how much I really did love the fashion industry. Kind of like all of these pieces started falling together. I had a friend in Denver who was doing like some small batch manufacturing out of his house. He was making underwear for a few other brands. He had these like little abuelitas that would come into his house and they would sew underwear. He approached me because he used to come see me at the club, and he used to say, hey, like, you should start your own underwear line. I can help you. Is that something you might want to do? You already have an audience. Like, why don't you try? I'm like, this is a sign. Like, this things are starting to fall into place. So I did everything I could to figure out how to fund the very first run of YOCISCO underwear. I went to my 401k and I had a few $1,000s like built up in there. Not that much, because remember, I lost everything. I emptied out like $8,000 out of my 401k. I had to pay the penalties and everything. You know how that is when you empty your 401k too early. That's how I paid for the first run of YOCISCO underwear. The reason why I wanted to start the underwear, what made sense to me, is because I had worn so many different types of underwear. I noticed that a lot of the underwear was sexy that I was wearing, but it was not comfortable. Sexy, yes, I was looking good, but it's just not something I would want to wear all the time. And then I also had underwear that was really comfortable, but it wasn't sexy. So there was really a gap in the market where there was not underwear that was sexy and comfortable at the same time. I believe that people shouldn't have to like choose between comfort and confidence. And confidence, again, that word means everything to me. As a performer, confidence was really the difference between like having stage fright and like owning the room. Like, as a go-go dancer, you have to have that confidence. As a male entertainer, as a stripper, if you don't have that confidence to go out there, people will feel it and they will see it. That's what I wanted to translate over into YOCISCO, into the brand, to make people feel that confidence when they're wearing my brand. That was the original intention when we launched the underwear. And then the other big piece of YOCISCO is when I met my business partner, Brandon. YOCISCO is still standing because of my business partner, Brandon. And I met him right when I was launching the brand. I think Brandon tells the story better. He saw me jump off stage and dance for a guy in a wheelchair. Really, that's the moment he says that he decided that he wanted to work with me. His brains and his strategy and my heart and my creativity kept this brand running for over a decade. Together, we took YOCISCO from kind of like a side project to like a real brand that was actually selling underwear. And in 2014, I would say a year after our first production, is when we started using bamboo. And we started manufacturing in China. When we did that, the quality of the underwear got so much better, and the momentum for the brand grew, just grew. And that really helped cement in like who we are as YOCISCO. We're about comfort, we're about confidence, we're about community, we're about sustainability. All of these elements really trace back to my formative years when I was just trying to figure out who the fuck I wanted to be and where I wanted to go with my life. Everything is connected. The rush of performing, the financial crash, the magazine, like the fabric, like the fans. Every piece of that really built the YOCISCO brand. YOCISCO is not about perfection. YOCISCO is about progress. It's about believing that where you come from can be powerful. And the reason why I say that, because I was a stripper at a tiny little hole-in-the-wall bar in Denver, Colorado. And now we are a global brand with a loyal following. And I feel like that in itself is the power of where you are. Have you ever heard that term, like bloom where you're planted? I like that, but at the same time, I say bloom where you're planted. And then when you get too big, get a bigger pot, bitch. Everybody has a story, and this is mine. I just wanted to share it with you guys. Every piece of underwear that we make, it's a piece of my story. And I hope when you wear it, it's also a piece of your story. I really hope that you guys see us as a movement of confidence that came about from lived experience. That is the YOCISCO story. Have a good night, everybody, and have a great weekend. I will talk to you soon.